Broadcasting live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right. Happy to have you along, my fellow Americans. Sam Bushman live on your radio. Hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. No doubt starts now. This, my fellow Americans, is the broadcast for July the 29th in the year of our Lord 2025. This is hour one of two. The goal always to protect life, liberty, and property, to promote God, family, and country, and to do so on your radio in the traditions of our founding fathers. We use the incredible checks and balances put in place by our founding fathers in the supreme law of the land to make sure nobody gets too powerful. Chain them all down with the Constitution, if you will. That's our goal on your radio. If it's constitutional, we love it. And if it's not, I don't like it. That's how Trump would say it, right? Don't like it. Just don't like it. Don't want it. Don't need it. Don't like it. And there you go. All right. As you know, we reject revolution unless it's a peaceful Jesus revolution. Then we're in because we follow the Prince of Peace. Welcome to the broadcast. Hope you're all doing absolutely fantastic. There's just so much to discuss. Quick recap of yesterday's show. I had on Dr. Scott Bradley, hour one. Had on Lowell Nelson, hour two. That's typical Monday. We talked about the crisis at Media Matters. Yeah, key facts about it. MMFA, that's Media Matters for America, has incurred more than $15 million in legal expenses over the past 20 months, largely due to a defamation lawsuit filed by Elon Musk over at X and related investigations by Republican state attorneys general. Yeah, multiple. Staff reductions have been substantial over there. They say reportedly cutting at least half of its workforce amid the ongoing crisis. Donor confidence has weakened, prompting delays or flat-out withdrawals of contributions as backers grow wary of associating with the embroiled organization. Anyway, bottom line is it's just disaster over there. And on one hand, you know, I'd love to gloat because those guys have been dishonest and attacking me forever and all my associates, myself, James Edwards, Richard Mack. I mean, the list just goes on and on and on. And it's a sad tale. So Media Matters, certainly, not some organization that I have any love or appreciation for. However, I want to be very clear that I wish we could resolve these things a little more civil-like. After all, I'm the call for civility guy, right? And I'd love to sit down with those guys and I'd be the mediator. Sam Bushman can mediate between Elon Musk and Media Matters and see if we, how do we not give all the money to the lawyers? $15 million spent by these guys about to bankrupt them because, hey, X can just run them out of business. I'm not defending Media Matters. I'm just merely saying, why give the attorneys all the money? Secondarily, I believe in second chances. And I would say to Media Matters, listen, you just cannot publish these lies. And take Sam Bushman, for example, or Elon Musk or whatever. You just can't create these dishonest narratives regarding people that you hate. This is kind of a hate watch discussion. Why are you publishing these dishonest? Sam Bushman can't even sue. I can't afford to sue. I don't have $15 million to go to battle with whoever. Okay, but at the end of the day, I'd say, hey, Media Matters, you have every right to publish your opinions on politics. You have every right to cover the way you see things. That we believe in the First Amendment, even for you. But I'm telling you, you're not going to get away with the abuse that's going on when you dishonestly lie about other people, etc. Anyway, I bring all this up because I really don't want to have this gloat attitude, na, goodbye, kind of stuff. I don't want to have this cocky attitude like, hey, I was right, you guys are wrong, you're clowns, and be hostile. That's not of any value. I want to support their First Amendment rights, but I also want to stop them from crossing the line. If we're not very careful, ladies and gentlemen, write this down and remember who's warning about this. If we're not very careful, what we're going to end up with is when the tables are turned and Trump's not the president anymore, and say the Congress goes, Democrat, liberal, whatever, and the president's more like a Joe Biden or a Barack Obama, hey, they will not hesitate to take off the gloves and go after us. And so I get that we want to take away money from NPR and some of the public companies because it's not right that they get federal money and then we have to compete with them in the private sector. It's not right. It's not fair. It's not honest. It's not. Okay, so I don't have any problem reducing funding for that. I don't have any problem with stopping Media Matters saying, look, you cannot report in this way. People can sue you. So one of the things that Donald Trump said he was going to do was he was going to change the libel laws. And then he basically said, and I don't have the soundbite in front of me. I could try to find it. I don't know if I can find it or not while I'm talking on the radio. But basically the idea was, hey, you know what? We're going to change these libel laws so that we can sue. Let me see if I can put this in the folder here for Liz. Liz, in your folder right now, I just put a file. I'm trying to do this while I talk on the radio. Trump declares he's going to open up libel laws. It's there now. Tell me when you see it there. And, okay, she's got this file. I want to play this because this is completely relevant to what we're talking about. Here it is.
I'm going to open up our libel laws so when they write purposely negative and horrible and false articles, we can sue them and win lots of money. We're going to open up those libel laws so that when the New York Times writes a hit piece, which is a total disgrace, or when the Washington Post, which is there for other reasons, writes a hit piece, we can sue them and win money instead of having no chance of winning because they're totally protected.
All right, there he goes. I couldn't agree with him more. That needs to happen. Because what I don't like is just having Elon Musk sue these people. They spend $15 million trying to defend themselves. They melt down, go out of business. We gloat and laugh. And then when it's their turn, they do the same thing to our side. This pendulum swing has got to stop of the left and the right and the divide and the hatred and the lawfare and the et cetera, et cetera. So I do agree with President Trump. We need to loosen the libel laws. Now, Trump has won plenty of money. When he says we're going to open up these libel laws and win lots of money, I thought he was talking about all of us. Any of us who, well, here's what happens. They tell you that I'm nobody when they want to ignore me. They tell you that I'm a celebrity and a rock star and a public figure when they want to make sure they don't get sued. And so that's their, hide behind. And I agree with Trump. We got to change the libel laws to stop that. But so far, all I've seen is Trump's won buckets of money between all the lawsuits of libel and slander and whatever terms you want to use about Trump. I mean, so far, I don't know how much it is, but he's already got 30, 40, 50 million out of it all, right? At the same time, Alex Jones got beat, had to pay, $1 billion? I know he hasn't paid it, but that's what the deal is, right? And so if we're not very careful, we're going to let this pendulum swing, libel laws not change, and pretty soon they can attack us and shut us down. And we better be very, very, very careful with this, is my whole point to bring this up. Trump says he's going to open up the libel laws. I pray that he really, really does. But so far, I haven't seen it. I just see it kind of applying to him and not to us. Anyway, I want to be civil about this. I want to realize that, hey, Media Matters is not a friend of mine. At the same time, I want to support their First Amendment rights. At the same time, rather than lawsuits giving lawfare to everybody and plenty of money to the lawyers and everybody else suffers, I'd rather see kind of a mediator sit down for a lot less money and say, hey, what can we do, Media Matters? What can you do to correct this? You've literally committed libel and slander against some of these people. You are being sued over this for defamation and everything else or whatever. Hey, what can we do to put some intelligence in this thing to where you guys cannot publish things that you know? And maybe there's a peace accord. Maybe the art of the deal isn't just Trump's. Maybe other people can negotiate. I'd love to help with that. I would not attack or abuse, believe it or not, Media Matters. I would defend their First Amendment rights. And I would do my very best to say, hey, you have every right to your views, but you go too far. How do we find that balance in that line? What they've tried to do in the past is get these fact checkers. The problem is with the fact checkers, they're just dishonest too. They literally run down things and say they're fact when they're not and claim things are not fact when they are. And, I mean, look at their record on the Russian dossier. Totally bogus, totally bunk. I don't know if we'll get any prosecutions out of that, but we should. See? Right on down to the Jeffrey Epstein files and stuff. Hey, what's the real truth on that? Well, I don't know. They claim they didn't have a list. There was no such list. Now they've got a list because Ghislaine Maxwell laid out over 100+ people. That's your starting point for the list. Start using phone records and emails. Start using manifests of plane travel, attendance at parties. There's got to be that kind of stuff. And let's start to vet each name one at a time. Let's release the lists. But now what they're trying to do is they're trying to basically circumvent the Jeffrey Epstein thing by talking about Clinton or anybody else involved in different scandals. Oh, my gosh. Hillary, her hard drive, she wasn't honest about her emails. She did all these things. Hey, man, I'm for prosecution for that, but we've known about this forever, right? When are we going to have prosecutions? Don't know, but let's get back to it in seconds on your radio, shall we?
You know where the solution can be found, Mr. President? In churches, in wedding chapels, in maternity wards across the country and around the world. More babies will mean forward-looking adults, the sort we need to tackle long-term, large-scale problems. American babies in particular are likely going to be wealthier, better educated, and more conservation-minded than children raised in still industrializing countries. As economist Tyler Cowen recently wrote, quote, "By having more children, you're making your nation more populous, thus boosting its capacity to solve climate change. The planet does not need for us to think globally and act locally so much as it needs us to think family and act personally. The solution to so many of our problems, at all times and in all places, is to fall in love, get married, and have some kids."
Bypass the mainstream narrative with Liberty News Radio at libertynewsradio.com. Engage with charismatic hosts live or on demand. We cover the crucial news focused on God, family, and country. News that other networks simply refuse to use. Think of LNR's hard-hitting news and podcasts at your fingertips, anytime, anywhere. Join us at libertynewsradio.com. Empower your day with the truth, because the truth will set you free. libertynewsradio.com.
Introducing Managed IT Services from NPI. We offer top-notch data backup and recovery, email spam protection, and network security tailored to your needs and budget. With 20-plus years of experience in the medical field, our HIPAA-certified consultants know what it takes to protect sensitive information. Don't settle for less. Give us a call at 801-706-6980 and experience the difference with Managed IT Services. Remember, your IT support should be fast, efficient, and reliable.
All right, back to the live. So, I don't want to attack this Media Matters group. I'd like to broker a deal. And I understand that, it's exciting to say, oh, man, shut these guys down. We're opening it up to libel laws. Let's get this done. I just think we need to be very, very, very careful and cautious that we don't attack too hard. We can attack the wrongs they've done about lying about us. We can attack the facts. But let's not make it personal. Let's not let it go to lawfare. And let's not create blowback, if you will. In other words, hey, when the tables are turned, go after us hardcore because that's what we did to them. We don't want to be those guys. We want to be take the moral high road guys, which is we're going to create a line here of logic. You cannot abuse other people. You can't tell lies. At the same time, you do have your First Amendment rights. And there's a balance there. And I think that we can achieve that balance. Now, interestingly enough, speaking of all this balance and all this interesting thing, Megyn Kelly, as you know, was kind of a Fox person and a news babe, and she carried the line and, whatever they wanted her to do until she got let go. And now she's supposed to be this, out of the mainstream rebel, new media person taking on the mainstream press. And, it's interesting to me how these guys work for the beast. And they're really, toe the line of the beast. They mock conservatives. They kind of make fun of us. They're kind of middle road. They're kind of wealthy. They're rock stars running around, celebrities because they're big news babes or news leaders or whatever. And then when they get let go and they become kind of a nobody, then they carve out their own new niche, which is, let's take on the mainstream press. They're dogs. They're evil. They're bad guys all along. And I have a problem, not with that being the facts, because I think that is true, that the mainstream press is very dishonest and is manipulative and does toe the line of the government primarily, of the liberal viewpoint primarily, You know, they'll hate Trump and love Barack Obama, for instance, or whatever. And they have that liberal bent. Most of their donations, media leaders, most of their donations go to the Democratic side of the aisle. And so, you know, it's easy to see where they stand on things. So Megyn Kelly and others are right on this point. The question that I have is about genuineness. I've, from the start of my career, told you these people in the mainstream press are dishonest. That's why I promote news that the networks refuse to use, because they won't talk about the stories that I talk about. They might talk about the same story, but their take is 100% different. I mean, who's coming out of the gate on the radio today like I am going, hey, Donald Trump on the campaign trail declares he's going to open up libel laws. And then I tie that to a lot of what's going on right now, right? It's interesting. We see that going on right now. We find out that, for example, Shannon Bream becomes permanent host of Fox News Sunday. So see, Shannon Bream now has to really kind of toe the line, doesn't she? I mean, she's a permanent host of Fox News. Now, I know Fox News has a slogan they used to use, that whether they use it now or not, I don't know. We report, you decide. But then they got caught with so many dishonest reports. It wasn't about we report, you decide. That wasn't what it was at all, see? Anyway, that's kind of the problem. I don't think we got to attack one another. I think we got to take a step back and try to sit down for lunch and humanize people and say, look, we might disagree on things, but let's get past that. We can be kind and respectful and decent. And so I'd love to sit down with Megyn Kelly. I'd love to sit down with Shannon Bream. I'd love to sit down with my buddy Tim over at Rolling Stone. I'd like to sit down with the folks at Media Matters and see if we can't really come to some kind of an understanding that, hey, we might disagree politically quite a bit. In fact, politically speaking, there might not even be a road pack because we're just so far apart, so different. But from a human point of view, we both got families, or we've all got families, or children, or loved ones, or parents, or friends, and we've got hobbies, and we've got, you know, interests and books that we read. And so, and maybe if you sit down for lunch and you just take off the political hat, the divide and conquer agenda of politics, and you say, here's where I'm coming from and here's where I feel the way I do. Here's my life's experiences to some degree. Here's some stories, a little bit about me and who I am and what makes me tick and what makes me, and they do the same. Pretty soon, people can start to become friends in spite of it all and say, you know what? And I'll give you a great example of this. There's a guy by the name of Thom Hartmann. He's one of the top talk show hosts in the nation, by the way. Tom is Thom, I think. Hartmann. He's a great guy. He's very liberal. Him and I don't agree on politics a lot. However, I will say this. He's been on my radio show. I've sat in his radio studio. And I'm telling you, I believe Thom Hartmann is an honest, well-meaning, great person. Why do I say that? Because he's been willing to come on my radio program. Not that that's the most important, but it shows that he doesn't think he's more important than everybody else. He doesn't think, hey, I'm a rock star and I'm on a higher tier than you, so therefore I won't stoop to your level. No, he came on the program as a dignified, well-educated, just nice guy. And when I went to his studio, he was discussing with former Sheriff Richard Mack and others about, you know, gun rights and about this and about that, a lot of different topics. They disagreed. It was okay. Great conversations were had and tremendous respect. I've tried to interview a lot of the liberal folks, and most of the time they refuse to do it. I've talked to several reporters and, you know, this and that. Hey, would they come on the program with me? So Rolling Stone did a huge takeout piece about me, as you all know. And I invited Tim Dickinson, the guy that wrote the hit piece on me. Him and I talked behind the scenes for several hours. He thinks I'm a nutcase. He won't go to lunch with me. He says, why would I ever go to a lunch with you? And I said, because we might realize we're a lot more alike, a lot more friendly, a lot more human than we think we are, and we might actually get along decently. And he refused. And I just find that so sad. Anyway, I bring all this up because I do think we need a clarion call for civility. And I think it starts with us being willing to sit down with one another. And so I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to broker a deal with those guys. I think it's a sad deal that lawfare from Elon Musk is just going to shut down Media Matters. I'm not defending Media Matters like I think they're great. I just feel like we better be really careful. Shannon Bream becomes permanent host of Fox News Sunday. So now she's going to be towing the line from Fox. But Megyn Kelly, as I brought up, is doing something different. Remember our old friend Hope Hicks? Oh, yeah. Hope Hicks, a former White House communications director for Donald Trump, has been appointed as the chief operating officer of Devil May Care Media, owned by Megyn Kelly. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with this phrase, Devil May Care, but that's what she's called it, Devil May Care Media. And what that means, as far as I understand, it's like, hey, we're rebelling. We're not standard. We're not sticking with the status quo. We're going to take on no holds bar kind of a thing outside of the mainstream. So it's an interesting name for a Megyn Kelly who made her living, made her fame, made her fortune, became a rock star on the stages of Fox and other group. Now Megyn Kelly's going to hire Hope Hicks, I guess. Hicks previously served as Trump's press secretary during his 2016 campaign. She returned to the White House, as they call her, a counselor in 2020. She also held a position at Fox Corporation and managed Ivanka Trump's fashion brand at the Trump Organization. So she's been around for a lot. And Devil May Care Media, which Megyn Kelly founded in 2020, produces the Megyn Kelly Show. And then they call it the AM Update with Megyn Kelly. So, she's trying to show her, whatever you want to call it. She's everywhere. She's important. But now she's taking this outside approach that, hey, she's a rock star. She can say what she wants. She criticizes conservatives and liberals alike. And she's really, the devil may care. She's really out there in your face. Hey, no holds bar, hardcore. I appreciate that. But again, this is the lady that took a ton of money. So I don't have a lot of respect for these people that start out, riding for the brand, promoting the mainstream, propelling those lies and misrepresentations. And then all of a sudden they get let go, or they somehow have an out with them. And then all of a sudden now these guys are like, oh man, yeah, we're telling you these mainstream networks are bad. They're, these guys are what? Isn't that where you got your fame and your money in the first place? And it's kind of like IBM, these companies or these celebrity, I don't know what you want to call them, empires that they build, are so large, even when you get let go, you've got so much money, you can just come back as a talk show host and do the podcast thing, and you've got millions of dollars to work with. Then you hire somebody like Hope Hicks. It'd be interesting to see, Hope Hicks, well known in the media. Listen, goes to the Trump administration, back to the media, Trump administration, back to the media. These people have these revolving doors that keep them wealthy and in power. And you look at Megyn Kelly and Hope Hicks and you go, those are two conservative women. But they weren't too conservative when they worked for Fox. I don't know how conservative Hope was when she managed Ivanka Trump's fashion brand. How conservative was she during all that? Anyway, very interesting alliance between Hope Hicks and Megyn Kelly. Just thought I'd bring that to your attention. Very strange stuff. Like I say, I really want civility to be important. I need to work up my own civility. I'm not perfect at it. I get frustrated and just want to go off on people. And I'm pretty good ripping people shreds when I choose to, but I don't think it's the wise course going forward. I think there's a better way, a higher way, a more holy way. I know I got a lot of work to achieve it, but I'm working on it and hope others will too. Hang tight. This is the one and only Liberty Roundtable Live.
How would you like to help this program reach more people and earn silver at the same time? Call or text 801-669-2211 for complete details.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. 4 people killed in a mass shooting in the heart of Midtown Manhattan.
No words can describe this act of evil. A man who takes the life of others who are innocent.
New York City Mayor Eric Adams.
And no words can fill the void that has been left by this tragedy. Our hearts break for the families and friends of the victims. We pray for the swift and safe recovery of the injured.
Adams says the suspect was trying to target the Park Avenue headquarters of the National Football League, but took the wrong elevator and didn't get there. One of the 4 people killed, an off-duty NYPD officer, a married father of 2, whose wife is expecting the couple's 3rd child. After the shootings, the gunman, who police say did have a documented history of mental health issues, took his own life. Dozens of people killed, more than 80 others injured. The latest Russian attack on Ukraine. This time the target was a prison, as well as a medical facility hit by airstrikes. President Trump's growing increasingly frustrated with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
I'm not so interested in talking anymore. He talks, we have such nice conversations, such respectful and nice conversations, and then people die the following night with a missile going into a town and hitting, recently I guess the nursing home, but they hit other things. Whatever they hit, people die.
Mr. Trump has significantly shortened the deadline he's given Putin to agree to a truce or face crushing economic sanctions. It's another day of intense heat and smothering humidity for a vast area from the Gulf Coast to New England. High temperature records could be shattered today in some of the big cities on the East Coast. On Wall Street this morning, the Dow trading about 24 points lower. More on these stories at townhall.com.
Charlie Kirk here. I've been thinking, why does it feel like losing weight is harder than ever before? Mixed messages, fad diets, and quick fix solutions. Many people are left stuck and exhausted trying to fight a battle they can't seem to win. If you feel this way, you're not alone. I used to feel that way too. But let me tell you, it's not your fault. Your body is working against you, and delaying action only makes it harder. I took a step 2 years ago and called PhD Weight Loss and Nutrition and lost 40 pounds. I feel great and have kept it off. If you are ready to make a change for life, call 855-696-2020. That is 855-696-2020 to schedule your weight loss consultation. The first 11 callers who mention healthy will get 2 free weeks added to their weight loss package. Call 855-696-2020 and mention the word healthy. Visit them at myphdweightloss.com. That is myphdweightloss.com. It works, everybody. Check it out at myphdweightloss.com.
Introducing PrepStartsNow.com, your ultimate guide to readiness and peace of mind. We offer practical preparedness tools, training, and education to take your family's household readiness to the next level. Browse the prep shop for essential products, check out our planning guides, and stay informed with our prep blog. Visit PrepStartsNow.com and subscribe to our emails for exclusive offers, new products, and future events. Remember, preparedness begins with PrepStartsNow.com.
Former Sheriff Richard Mack recounts in his book The Proper Role of Law Enforcement how he came to realize while working as a beat cop how wrong the all-too-common orientation of police officers is when they think of their job as being to write tickets and arrest people. Richard Mack tells of his personal transformation from by-the-number cop to Constitution-conscious defender of citizen safety and freedoms. Learn what it really means to serve and protect. Purchase your copy at cspoa.org. That's cspoa.org.
The Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit legal foundation committed to protecting our unalienable right to publicly acknowledge God. The Foundation for Moral Law exists to restore the knowledge of God in law and government and to acknowledge and defend the truth that man is endowed with rights not by our fellow man, but by God. The Foundation maintains a twofold focus. First, litigation within state and federal courts. Second, education, conducting seminars to teach the necessity and importance of acknowledging God in law and government. How can you help? Please make a tax-deductible contribution, allowing Foundation attorneys to continue the fight. You may also purchase various Foundation products as well at morallaw.org. Located in Montgomery, Alabama, the Foundation for Moral Law is a nonprofit, tax-exempt 501c3 founded by Judge Roy Moore. Please partner with us to achieve this important mission. morallaw.org.
Live from atop the Rocky Mountains, the crossroads of the West. You are listening to the Liberty Roundtable Radio Talk Show.
All right, back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So much going on, so much news. You know, I want to take a page out of the playbook. George Washington's rules of civility and peace in behavior, in company, and conversation. Very good. President Trump accused former Vice President Kamala Harris, Beyonce, and Oprah Winfrey of basically illegal monies. Trump claimed on Truth Social that Democrats paid Beyonce $11 million for her endorsement without her performing. Oprah Winfrey, $3 million. Trump called for prosecution of those involved in these transactions. Hey, if you pay rock stars to promote your agenda, in other words, use their name, at what point is it a conflict of interest? Anyway, there you have it. The DOJ met with Ghislaine Maxwell, as we know. She named over 100 people. Why would the Department of Justice secretly meet with Ghislaine? What do they have to hide? Why would they do that? Cash, I'd like an answer on that. Pam, Dan, I'd like answers. I'm not comfortable with the DOJ, who we can't trust, the FBI, who we can't trust, CIA, who we can't trust, all these people. Why are they meeting with them? And Maxwell is scheduled to testify before Congress on August the 11th. Now, here's the question. Did the DOJ witness tamper? Just wondering, what might they have put over her head or promised her or given it? What gives? But she named over 100 people. Let's use that as the starting of the list and release it ASAP. Ghislaine Maxwell names 100 people plus. Yeah, she's hoping desperately for a pardon, right? Maybe we'll get some answers out of her. But this ain't over yet, people. Let's not let this go. They're trying to basically put, other people's names in the media so that we forget about this thing. Put all these different folks that were tied to Russiagate. Why are we dealing with Russiagate right now? On top of the, if Donald Trump wants to say, how dare you talk about Jeffrey because of the floods in Texas or whatever he said, then how about this? How dare we talk about Russiagate when we already know the criminals in Russiagate? All we got to do is prosecute and convict. But yet Russiagate seems to be eclipsing the Jeffrey Epstein story. Why? Who made that happen? Who has enough pull over the media to where you got a lot more names associated with Russiagate being discussed than you do the Jeffrey Epstein scandal? See, they're so good in the media at changing our focus. We have short memories as the American people, and we don't seem to realize you're being hoodwinked, folks. Here's why. Because they know in the Russiagate thing, it's a scandal, and it's awful, and it's evil, and it's wrong, but they're not going to get to any prosecutions. Barack Obama, they say, was the main engineer. It all started with him. He was in on it. Fine. Are you going to arrest him? Oh, no, Sam, he didn't really break exact laws. What he did was unethical, for sure. It wasn't good, but see, and then no one's going to go to jail. And then we forgot all about the Epstein files, see? That's the mistake. And if we're not very careful, we're talking about Americans' Syrian Civil War rights, Ron Paul, highlighting that, you know what, if we get too close to the truth, they'll just take us to war. If the United States pursued a humble foreign policy of non-interventionism like our founding fathers advocated for, we wouldn't be in all these wars. Right? I mean, Judge Napolitano writes an article to enforce the laws faithfully. The drafters of the Constitution provided for a separation of powers, right? Congress writes the laws, but only the president and those he hires, and by the way, can fire, can enforce the laws. And then the courts decide what those laws mean and how they relate to the Constitution, right? This is easy stuff if you really pay attention. The flip side of the separation of powers is twofold. First, the separation prohibits each branch of government from performing the core duties of either of the other two branches. Judge Napolitano's right. All right, you've got to have the Constitution layout. The Constitution is very clear. Congress is in charge of taxes and tariffs. The second flip side of the separation of powers is this assumption that each branch will do what the Constitution charges them to do and nothing more, right? So this is very easy in my mind. Hey, Congress writes the laws, passes the laws. They're the lawmaking body. The president carries out the laws. If there's a conflict or a concern or an interpretation, the judges can interpret the law, not make new law, not set aside law, not change law, but interpret the law. Anyway, there you have that. There's still the big battle in Gaza. And they say, hey, when it comes to children, at least they want to go to heaven because at least there's food there. What a sad tale to tell. And Donald Trump wants to turn that thing into a playground for the rich? I don't think so. Now, get ready for a big foreign crisis, writes Jacob G. Hornberger over at LouRockwell.com. Great column, and a column designed to really discuss what are we facing right now. I don't know. Some people say Obama's legacy comes into focus. Well, that's true, but see, Obama's legacy is not going to be negative. He's not going to be arrested. He's not going to go to jail. The Republicans don't have the stomach for it. We're not going to have accountability. The Republicans aren't serious about it. They're just not. The Republicans aren't going to be throwing people in jail left and right for their crimes. They ought to be. The system is so corrupt. I mean, every single day for literally 10 years now. That's right. For 10 years now almost. Donald Trump has been telling you how dishonest the media is and the government is, and how the government was in bed with the media. I mean, the Elon Musk stuff. Hey, he released a bunch of stuff early on right when he bought X. Turned Twitter into X and bought it, $44 billion or whatever it was. And he said, hey, it's corrupt. We saw a few things blip out of there, but we never got to the bottom of it. There was nobody accountable for any crimes. The government literally took over the media. No harm, no foul. The government literally uses one president of the United States to attack and belittle and mock and wrongfully whatever the next president. And there's no harm, no foul. Hey, the wheels of justice grind so slow you'll never get to the truth. And you can say, Sam, wow, you're negative. My response is, I don't mean to be negative. I'm just telling you that I don't understand what we're going to do about this. And Trump isn't spending time, in my mind, on the right things at all. Let me give you an example to make the point. Trump acts, so Trump takes action, in other words, to provide mental health care for homeless, writes dailysignal.com. So it sounds great. Trump's going to act. He's going to go ahead and provide mental health care for the homeless. Sounds like an awesome idea, right? I don't think so. President Trump signed an executive order mandating the long-term hospitalization of homeless individuals suffering from mental illness or addiction, aiming to restore public safety and compassion to address root causes of homelessness through institutional care. Now, I've got so many questions about this, it's not even funny. So first off, he doesn't have the right to create an executive order mandating this and this and this and this. Is it a law? This executive order? Because if it's a law, I just went over this 2 seconds ago, ladies and gentlemen. Congress. Did you hear me? Congress makes the laws. So if Trump's, whatever you call this thing, mandating. So if Trump signs an executive order mandating something, is it a law or is it a mandate? The answer is it's an unconstitutional mandate. That's the problem with this thing. Do I care about the homeless? Yes. Do I want them to get support and help? Absolutely. Do I want to be compassionate and kind? Without question. Do I want to address the root causes? Yes. A lot of them are addiction. A lot of them are mental illness. There's a lot of our veterans that find themselves in this category, right? But when you mandate the long-term hospitalization, what does that mean? Does it mean that you're giving a homeless person a chance to get support and help? Or are we going to force long-term hospital care for these people? What if they don't want to get long-term hospital care? Well, is it mandated? Where does the general government, let's ask two questions. One, where does Trump get authority to make law? to just, by executive order, release a mandate nationwide. I don't think he has the authority to do that, first of all. Second of all, where's the checks and balances that I spoke so fondly of just recently? Hey, Congress should make the laws. The president should carry out the laws. And, hey, if there's confusion, the courts need to clarify the laws or interpret the law. I get it. Where in that does it say Donald Trump can mandate long-term hospital care for homeless, nationwide? Where's the money for that going to come from? This reminds me of Richard Mack, Sheriff Mack's court case. I'll talk about that in a second. You're listening to Liberty Roundtable Live. I'm Sam Bushman with hard-hitting news the networks refuse to use. Straight ahead on your radio.
Get ready to be part of something incredible. We're breaking barriers and delivering the powerful stories that mainstream media won't touch. Your support is what fuels our mission to revolutionize journalism and bring you the truth. Join our passionate community of changemakers by donating at libertynewsradio.com today. Together, we're creating the future of news.
Do you know what is great about America? Ask an Immigrant. Ask an Immigrant is a new podcast dedicated to helping Americans, especially our youth, value, appreciate, and be grateful for the freedoms we have here in America. Join host Lydia Wallace-Nuttall as she interviews immigrants from around the world to discover their inspiring personal stories about why they came to America. To learn more about why America is the most prosperous, greatest country in the world, download the Loving Liberty app or go to lovingliberty.net.
Now, Mr. and Mrs. Sir Galahad, what seems to be the problem?
Well, it's just not working.
She's been very unrealistic. Really?
Ever since he rescued me from the dragon, we've been drifting apart.
That's not true.
We were supposed to live happily ever after.
Now, this isn't a fairy tale.
At first he was gallant and chivalrous, opening doors for me, holding my chair, taking my arm.
All right, I'm not as young as I used to be.
He simply isn't the man who swept me off my feet.
Well, you're not as young as you used to be. Mr. Sir Galahad, maybe if you started by just holding Mrs. Sir Galahad's hand when you're together.
Really?
Yes, try it.
Okay.
All right, go on, take her hand. Careful, little oil.
Marriage. You're never too far apart when you're still holding hands. From your neighbors, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
Now, look into each other's eyes. That's right. Raise your visor.
Oh, they're blue, dear.
For more tips on strengthening your marriage, visit family.mormon.org.
Back with you live, ladies and gentlemen. So we're talking about this homeless executive order that Trump made. What does President Trump's homelessness executive order mean for Oregon? In other words, the state of Oregon. So people are kind of asking these questions all over the place, wondering what's going on. There's a lot of homeless in Oregon, people. I'm telling you right now, you go to Portland and all that kind of stuff, and you see tent cities everywhere and everything else. It's a disaster. They show a line of vehicles in this article where people have been living in their cars on Portland's southeast 94th Avenue is what they call it. I don't really know how to think about this thing. I mean, I appreciate Trump's desire to make a difference, but why is he spending time on that when he should be abolishing the Federal Reserve or something a whole lot more meaningful? Now, the owners of a restaurant near this place in Oregon had to call 911 and try to get the government to remove the squatters and clean up the parking lot. But what will this mean? And if we're not very careful, you got this executive order, which basically talks about how the housing first, substance abuse, etc. Anyway, the order was met with support and pushback from politicians and organizational leaders. The federal government is limited in how it can enforce a directive like that at a state level. Now think about that. The federal government is limited of how it can enforce a directive like that at a state level. So they're not talking about law. They're talking about a directive. And that's, in my mind, this is really interesting stuff. right? They're not saying it's a law, and they're saying the federal government has limited ability in this thing, right? That's very interesting, in my opinion. How much can they enforce a directive like that at the state level? And the answer is they really can't. Now, I want to spend a little bit of time on Sheriff Richard Mack's case in this discussion, because this is exactly like what President Clinton did to sheriffs across the country and Richard Mack. They said, we're creating a federal mandate, and it's even backed by some law, by Congress in this case. And so, sheriffs, you're going to do the bidding. Sheriff Mack and seven sheriffs total, said, no, we're not. And they won, and Bill Clinton lost. And it was over this very point being made. You're limited in how much you can enforce at the state level. You don't have authority or jurisdiction. That's the problem. All right, so now they say increasing institutionalization. Trump's order vows to involuntarily commit people. They say most people are struggling with mental illnesses, addicted to substances, etc. But I have a problem with this involuntarily thing. What does it mean? I don't really know where to go with this thing, because I get the addictions, I get the trouble, I get the need for support and help. They say 65% say they had a regular time in their life where they used drugs, these homeless people. They say the most common reason for people to become homeless is economic in nature, not necessarily with drugs. They usually began using drugs after becoming homeless. Anyway, Trump says, hey, if we do all this, it'll restore public order, da-da-da-da-da. See, I don't see it that way. I really don't. Trump's order vows to push, right, for more involuntary commitment of homeless people who he claims are mostly addicted to substances and or struggling with mental illness. I think there's truth to the points being made, that they are, a lot of them are on drugs, a lot of them have mental issues. It's all correct. My hesitation about this is, one, where's the lawmaking body? Where's Congress? Derelict in their duty? Yes. They're on recess, people. They left. They didn't want to have to vote on the Epstein release list, so they all went home, from what I understand. It's a disgrace. Then meanwhile, Trump's making these executive orders, which are not even law. Trump can't make law, people. So it's a mandating of long-term hospitalization for homeless individuals. But the federal government's limited in enforcing this stuff. Trump's order vows to push for more involuntary commitment of homeless people. So they're going to start just yanking people off the streets, putting them in long-term mental hospitals. Do we want to see the crank up of mental hospitals in America? So pretty soon we'll be the most, jailed nation in the world and the most mental hospital nation in the world? Hey, which would you pick? Which would you prefer to go to, a mental institution or jail? Who's worse, the big pharma drug experiment people on the mental institution patients, or when you go in jail, the gang thug with a shank or something like that, who's going to go? Where do you take your chances? Is that where we're headed in America? See, I personally think the best thing to do is reduce the size and scope of the government and use churches, nonprofits, private local organizations to deal with a lot of these problems. Remember, the primary Christian creed, if you will, or commitment you make at baptism, whatever term you want to talk about as a Christian, is to love your God with all your heart, might, mind, and strength. The second one's like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. If we were really doing that properly in America as Christians, do you believe we need Donald Trump to act to provide mental care for homeless? I mean, Trump's in Washington, D.C., 3,000 miles, probably 4,000 miles away from Oregon. And then I quoted this Oregon newspaper talking about, hey, what does it mean? Well, it means that President Trump has literally signed an executive order, which I don't believe he has authority to do, mandating something that's not even law. Yeah, I mean, they literally admit the federal government's limited in what they can do about this. But yet Trump's order is vowing to push for more involuntary commitment of people. I wonder if they'll just decide that I'm mentally unstable, or I'm, right, or your kid in school, or who's going to be the decider? Who's going to be the decision maker on where you stand? You say, well, Sam, we're only dealing with the homeless. I know, but think about the adage, they came for the Jew and I wasn't a Jew. They came for and I wasn't and then when they came for me, there was nobody left. So, wow. I think that's where we're headed with this. At first, you can start with the drug addicted and the homeless. Next, you can talk about the prostitutes. Next, you can, all the gang members, illegals, every ne'er-do-well group you can think of. And hey, I'm not any of those. I'm not homeless. I'm not drug addicted. I'm not. And pretty soon what happens when they come for me? This mental issue, mental health care at the federal government level is disaster. And I've warned you, when they get rid of the government schools or they get rid of the education department, a lot of these initiatives will go under health care. Will go under mental health care. And when you look at that, that's the last thing we want at the federal level. I mean, the federal government's already in bed with Big Pharma, right? Now we're having the president mandate people go to long-term mental institution hospitals. Are we going to crank up mental institutions? Is that what's going to happen? I pray the answer is no. Are we going to have the Alcatrazes of the mental health world? Yes, Sam, we're going to give you a straitjacket, buddy. We're going to put you so far into this mental institution. We're going to by force medicate you with mRNA kind of experimental medications. We're going to, what would I be guilty of? I'm not homeless. I'm not drug addicted. Sam, your view on politics, you have a pretty negative public persona score, a.k.a. Communist Chinese. You're not doing so well. How dare you attack Trump about this mental health care? All he's trying to do is care for people who are suffering. I go there. I get the concern. We agree that mental health care and solutions should be provided for the homeless. But my question is that something that the president gives guidance on for the states, the local communities, and says, hey, our national research through RFK-JR and others, through the National Institutes of Health or whatever, Health and Human Services, hey, we've determined this is the best way to deal with this thing. We want to give you some guidance and some support. That's one thing. That's not what Trump did. He literally created an executive order, in other words, skipping Congress, and said, hey, here's the new law. We're going to force a lot of these people into mental institutions. We're going to clean up society. It's going to be all good. What you're going to end up with, though, is you're going to have a, psychiatric system, a mental health institution system, that eventually rivals our jails. Thousands, hundreds of thousands, possibly millions in these situations. Of course, you won't have any homeless on the street there. I think we're going down a very dark road, in my humble opinion. This is not wise. Somebody needs to stop President Trump and get him focused on the things that he needs to be focused on. I care about the homeless. Don't misunderstand me. I just think Christians can take care of that. The general government can advocate Christians to do their duty and encourage everybody in the nation to take part in local solutions on that front. I get it and think it's important. I think the President of the United States should be focused on something different, like maybe getting rid of the IRS. If I had a little more money in my pocket, maybe I could take care of my neighbor a little easier, huh? Rather than paying so much for the goons at the federal level, huh? All right, hour one of the can, hour two coming up. I'm Sam Bushman. Thanks for being alongside with the ride. I'm syndicated by the Loving Liberty Radio Network. Download the iPhone or the Android app or listen online at lovingliberty.net. God save our republic.